We know that Simulanka's fate is the reflection of Teyvat's fate. What happened in the Simulanka story is a foreshadowing for the story of Teyvat. So let's talk about the fate of Teyvat, Irminsul, and what role does the traveler play in all these as the witness. Ever since Sumeru, the story has focused more on fate and memories. History of Teyvat itself is a collective memory stored in Irminsul. Pocket dimensions or simulated reality such as the Sabzara's Festival Samsara, the Hive Mind in Alhaitham Quest, Mose's Dream in Nahitha Quest, the Golden Slumber, the Dissolved Oceanids, the Phobos of Fontaine, the Loom of Fate, etc. all have one thing in common. They need someone to act as the host to remain stable. Without a strong host to enforce the rules of the dream, the memory becomes unstable and either collapses or falls into ruin. This is the will that is always being talked about. Even in temporary events like the second Golden Apple Archipelago, Bottleland, and now Simulanka, we always have someone to act as a host for the mirage. In Golden Apple Archipelago, it was the invited characters, Kazuha, Fiscal, Sinyan, and Mona. In Bottleland, Idea was the host. Simulanka's host M, or Andersdottir, passed away. Thus the fate of Simulanka became frozen and halted, because there was no one to write the story. The world was dying and fading. And the only way to progress the story was to bring in characters from outside Simulanka. Like it's a power beyond this world. Simulanka's fate is a reflection of Teyvat's. Teyvat's fate is controlled by the heavenly principles. But the heavenly principles have had their functions ruined and are asleep. Teyvat is in a cycle of destruction. Let's now talk about the role of the witness. Ever since the start of the game, fairy tales are important in Teyvat. Stories have a reader. When the reader reads the story, its events become embedded in the reader's mind. An author can change or add to the story later, but the part of the story that is read by the reader is what becomes canon. So far, every attempt to change or avoid the fate of Teyvat has been through some kind of collective memory alteration. But very little of it has stuck. The Golden Slumber failed. Phobos of Remuria failed. Narcissan Croix failed. Let's talk about the ones that succeeded. Nilo stabilized the Sabzara's festival with her strong imagination. Navia asserted herself as an individual and escaped being absorbed into the Oceanid collective. Wanderer rewrote the memory of the past. These individuals all demonstrated their strong will. Coincidentally, they're also the ones who got invited to Simulanka to play as characters. Venti told the birds that what they needed to fly wasn't high wind, but courage. It is their will that made them the first bird to fly. However, even if they had strong will, their changes were still limited. Samsara eventually ended. Navia got out but would have corrupted if she had stayed any longer. And Wanderer couldn't completely erase himself. But let's talk about some permanent alterations. Farina averted the prophecy. Nahitha erased Rukadevata. Ei planted the sacred Sakura back in time. Now, what do all these events have in common? The traveler was there to see it at the point of happening. In other words, the traveler witnessed fate being deceived or rewritten. Because the traveler is a descender, they have a will to rival a world. Therefore, when the traveler witnesses an event, it becomes in a sense, more real than it would otherwise be. That's probably why the Fatui are collecting the Gnosis or the pieces of the third descender. So they can use the third descender's will to stabilize the new world that they aim to create in place of the old world. And that's why the Abyss Twin needs the traveler to visit every region and complete their journey. That's why the traveler's constellation says the world is fading, but you will ascend. That's why Dainsleif says that at the end of it, all of fate will be yours to reweave. Because the traveler needs to witness all of Teyvat and preserve it in their memory. That's the role they play in the story. Not the hero, not the villain, but the reader who immerses themselves in the story and makes it more real by virtue of being there. Comment below what you think.